So I am back after, 2 weeks, give or take. And I needed to go do a video because it's been like forever. However, that video, I just wasn't done and I needed to do something here. So I'm still working on it, but I'm still compiling data information on it, and unfortunately, it just is taking a lot longer than I thought. So there was something else that happened 5 or 6 days ago, and I wanted to go talk about it simply because it's important. But figuring out how to do so was challenging. Now, it does apply to. This is important to me, but while it may apply to you, it may not apply to you right now. So keep that in mind. The topic itself is on peace, but before you check out, I would ask that you hear me with what I'm saying here because it's kind of important. Let me just say, in February, March 2020, I visualized getting shot, and I shut down hard for probably the rest of the year. I couldn't really handle things well, and I didn't really want to think about things because every time I did, it would go back to that one moment. So it was hard. Now, I want to say when my friend ended up checking out early, it didn't help at all. It shed some light on this topic, and it shed some light on some things that are very important, but even still, it was just hard. All right. However, 5 or 6 days ago, I want to say that something happened that made me realize some very important things, and I was able to actually just kind of. I want to say it's finished in that I was able to get some answers and just stop worrying about it. So basically, accepting my mortality and all that, and I would have to say that I felt a strange peace about it. Like, it was okay. Like, there's things you don't need to worry about. So, all in all, I wanted to talk about this because it's important. And I would have to say that people will handle it very differently. This isn't something that is easy. But I would have to say that the longer you study this and look at it and all of that, the more acceptable you become and the easier it gets. The topic itself is never going to be easy, that much is sure. And I would have to say there are promises that some people hold on to. There are some truths, promises, and in some cases, let me see here. The knowledge of what you are leaving behind is also comforting as well. So it could be friendship, it could be family, it could be a legacy of some kind. Now, I also have a screenshot here that I was, let's just say, lucky to get my hands on. And it also adds more to this that, let me see here. It adds a little bit more to this. So I'm going to post this up here and let y'all take a look at this while doing this video so you can understand it. Now, I have to agree, finding peace is incredibly difficult because not everyone knows where to look, let alone even having the right people and information in life to make sense of. Now, some people are going to be, what's the word? I don't want to say misled. All I'm just going to say is that some people will be looking in the wrong directions, and it may set them back for a very long time when it comes down to finding answers and finding that what they can make relatable in their own life. Since I've had a good foundation, loving parents, and some very awesome people I've run into in life, I've been able to put lots of answers and pieces together that have been crucial for my development, for who I and more into who I am. I'm already someone who likes to digging and looking into, looking for whatever answers I can find. So I kind of have to agree with this about this. Okay, paraphrasing here, quote unquote. But I realize that conflicts with my nature, as if I have too much peace in my life, I'll stop searching for answers and for understanding. So I totally understand that. However, at some point in time, more likely than not, the older you get, the more likely you will, once you check out and just have a peace, the rest of your life be peaceful. I guess it's up to you to figure out where you're going to stop there. Anyway, going back to myself here, I want to say that I felt a very strange peace that I couldn't really explain it. For once, I went back to that old memory, and I was very peaceful about it because I still can't explain it. I guess it relates to the Bible, what the Bible says about the peace that surpasses all understanding, and that's probably what it is. I'm not gonna lie. I guess when you get to that stage, you stop worrying, you stop being stressful over what will happen, and you start becoming more, accepting of what will happen and what can happen and all of that. Honestly, there's a lot that's beyond your control, my control and your control, that we just have to, come to grips with. We have to accept. Now, I think since everyone's different, it's going to take different lengths of time, and it's just going to be a different process for everyone. So if you're not at that stage now, like I said, you probably, hopefully you will be, because this is kind of important. Now, not everyone will be able to accept this too, and I realize this. So, maybe I should throw a warning label in this video or something. Well, anyway, moving on here. There are different types of peace too, and I was looking into it. So, I'll just briefly go over them. There's the don't be afraid kind of peace, where you understand, what is and what's not, and you can discern. I'll just read out the list and I'll discern, then I'll interpret them afterwards. Don't be afraid, number 1. Number 2, times of peace for more, like the calm in the middle of the storm. Number 3, hold your peace, which is learning when to be quiet and when to speak up. 4, speak peacefully. 5, peace with others. The first one is based on knowledge and wisdom and understanding. You understand certain things and you're not afraid of them. More likely than not, it's going to be other people, and it's going to be situations that you've learned to trust. You've learned to just not worry or stress about it. Now, the war with times of peace from war, I would have to say my deployment times, there were these times where I could rest and not worry so much, and basically getting off of, let me see here, specifically when I'm done with the duties that I had, which was going around base, or more likely than not during my first deployment, which was on guard duty. Now, I'm distinctly thinking about this Russian and Ukraine conflict, and I have to say that I'm pretty sure there are many there that's going to look very differently, because there is no guard duty. This is conflict with others. And the one time they could probably relax is when they're leaving, when they're done for the day and they're going back to their tent or whatever. They can actually just try to relax. Now, the third one is actually hard, because we all come across those people that we just want to snap on and basically try to bite their head off. But holding your peace and knowing when to talk. There's a verse that talks about not throwing your pearls before swine. Basically, not throwing what you care about and what you find valuable to others, because you're just going to trample all over that. That ties in with realizing and understanding you don't need to say everything that comes to mind, and you could just simply leave, not interact with them at all. I'm sure there are better explanations and all of that which you could use there. But this ties in, the next point ties in with something that is relevant to everyone. If you're not trying to burn bridges, if you're trying to let me see here. I'm not just simply saying you're trying to make a couple friends, you're going to speak nice and all of that, but trying to build up connections, trying to keep things from getting worse. So that is why it's important to learn how to speak peacefully. Now, lastly, I would say you could work on having peace with others just so you don't burn bridges. Now, an ex-girlfriend, boyfriend, or a spouse, or family members that just, things just disintegrated and you two hate each other. Yeah, having peace with them. It could be relevant, especially if it's like a spouse, an ex-spouse, and, you want things to end on a positive note. That does kind of matter. I would have to say the biggest reason why any of this matters is because if you can't have peace, you're not going to be able to... Your day is going to be very rough, as well as your night, probably. You're going to be a lot more stressed. You're going to be a lot more agitated. There's going to be a lot more issues that are harder to deal with. And to be honest, without peace in your life, you're probably going to be stressed day after day after day. This is something that we need, whether we like it or not. Now, you can come to finding peace through your own efforts, or because you hit rock bottom or you snapped and you're just like, I'm done, bye, and you just walk away from it all. You're likely to do more damage if you do that, though. Now, what I just read, this whole list that I wrote off here is a type of biblical peace. Now, I would have to say there are different kinds when you're talking outside of the Bible. Internal and external peace. Something that comes from a realization or a truth or a lesson that you believe, that you find to be true. Internal peace. External peace would be like a mother coddling her kid, the stressed out kid or something. Just trying to calm them down. That would fit very well right there. Now, there are 5 different ways that peace is talked about in the New Testament here, and I would have to say the 4th one hits me personally, because I said peace that passes all understanding is something that I believe I felt here, and I was putting words to it is basically impossible, but I will say that it is important and imperative. No, I can't say it like that. It's important. I'll just say it is important in that once you feel it, once it comes across you, you'll never forget it. All right. Peace as the absence of war or chaos. That's very true. You're not going to be in the middle of conflict, and there's not going to be anyone messing around with stuff, so you're going to be at peace there. Or at least you hope so. The second one, peace as a right relationship with God or with Christ. Now, you'll have a relationship, and it's always going to be different. You could probably do that and be all right. Normally, I would say never assume. But when it comes down to personal beliefs, you could safely assume that it's going to be different for everyone. Now, third one, peace as a good relationship among people. Being a peacemaker is something that comes to mind with some of the biblical, with some of what is talked about in the Bible as far as standing in the gap and being a peacemaker among men. There are some benefits to that, but honestly, not everyone can handle the stress or the issues that pop up because of it. Now, I would also have to say that if you don't have the right temperament, they're not going to trust you or look to you if there is an issue anyway. However, caring about other people ultimately can and usually does win others if you are pursuing them or trying to pursue peace with them. There's other points out there too, like if you happen to have a good reputation, people end up listening, but not everyone has the type of they don't have the type of personality that will likely calm others down. That takes time to work on as well. That goes into a whole different topic as far as what someone needs to have in order to calm down others. Let me see. 4. Peace as individual virtue or state. That is tranquility or serenity. The peace that passes all understanding. Yeah. However, there's also other points, other things to point to that you can understand. Having those beautiful dreams, going back, like, here's a good example for me. I've had this one dream where I was in a canoe or a boat of some kind, and the whole lake had a very beautiful purple glow to it. And this was basically like a lake with ice and icebergs and stuff floating all over. So in the distance you could see like the northern lights, and you could see ice banks and stuff like that. But it all had a beautiful purple glow to it. And something like that it's hard to have dreams like that. But I would say it's important. I mean, it's important to me, but telling other people and saying that sometimes you could have dreams and some wonderful visions and it just kind of puts you at ease, it's important. I mean, probably more for your mental health than your physical health, but let's just say stress is a real killer and it will wreak havoc on both your mental and your physical state of being. Now, I'll go one last part into this here, but, characteristics of peace here. Okay, I disagree with this. I'm looking this up real quick, but yeah. Talking about peace when it comes down to the law, I'm not going into that. But yeah, mutual respect and understanding for boundaries and laws. Yeah, okay, I get that. But yeah, no, I'm not doing that. All right, moving on here. The Bible verses here that do matter. Philippians 4, 6 through 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving presents your request to God. Being able to trust that, I've heard this saying, and it does make sense to a degree, but being able to trust your unknown future to a known God does matter, because not everything is going to be in your control. And understanding that this is all based on under the assumption that people have. Now, I say assumption for others, but for Christians, it's a belief that we humans, we have an identity because we are made in the image of God. Now, the reason why I disagree with removing Christianity is the fact that if you remove Christianity, there's very little else that helps to explain your identity and purpose as far as being here on this earth. So, going back to what I said, trusting a known God for your unknown future is incredibly important and should not be underestimated. Now, you don't have to believe it, sure, but keeping it in mind, you should keep it in mind whenever you come across things that you don't understand or situations that you just can't handle that you need help with, whether it be financial or through a loss of a relationship or someone passing away or whatever. This ties in with the next verse, 6 through 7. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. So having faith that things will work out in the end. So having a belief, having an understanding that things will work out in the end. Yeah. Let me see here. Now, it's interesting to note that Christianity does say that, Christ is the Lord of peace. 2 Thessalonians 3:16. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times and in every way. The Lord be with all of you. So I would have to say when people talk about God or Jesus, they honestly forget about, he's also the God of peace. He's the God of justice, the God of peace. He's a builder, he's a creator. He has a lot. And if we happen to be image bearers, then we reflect different parts of him in different ways. All right, let me see here. Yep, Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. So I'd have to say, if you happen to be a believer, one of the marks will be peace. Not just simply love, joy, and faithfulness and all that. There's a lot more that goes into it. Yeah. Well, I will put down some verses down below. I hope this was helpful. There is a lot here, so take your time in processing it. Now, I want to say that having time spent on these difficult topics, the more time you spend, the more you will learn, the more you will grow, and the more you'll begin to understand just how incredibly important this stuff is. I won't say that you will find, let me back up a step here. I know many people will encourage you to go to their church or to go listen to their pastor, because they talk about these incredible lessons or these lessons in such an incredible way. There may be truth there. But being able to look at a topic through someone else's eyes is incredibly important if you are stuck and if you are looking for answers. Being able to move on with your life and being able to see what applies to you. Well, let's just say that I'm hoping that my channel will be able to impact you in the way that you need, in a way that is relatable and understandable, because there is a lot of stuff out there. And on top of that, I don't remember hearing this topic of peace ever really talked about. And whenever it was always tied to, God. And that was hard. That was hard for me growing up. Now, beyond that, these topics, I'm gonna end on this note basically, but these topics here, I know I had a list that I wrote down a lot of stuff, but having what happened basically almost a week ago, I needed time to process. I needed time to go think about it and talk about it, because just because something happens doesn't mean I know how to talk about it, unfortunately. Sometimes it has to sink in, and I have to figure out what comes first when I discuss the topic. All right, until next time.